Well, welcome everyone. It is 3 o'clock. We're just going to get started here. Welcome to Esports Ed. It's Bytespeed's close to monthly webinar series dedicated all to sharing resources for high school and college esports. We've got an awesome panel of guests this month with us to talk about some NASEF affiliates and grassroots state organizations. Shedding some light on what some of the leaders in the country are doing in their states, we've got a couple of kind of open-ended questions to talk through this afternoon. We just really thank you for joining us today. To get started, just a real quick introduction on myself. My name is Josh Knutson. I'm the Esports and VR Solutions Director for Bytespeed. Former head coach at the University of Jamestown way back in 2016. Seems like a lifetime ago, even though it's just 5 years. Ran that program for 3 years and joined Bytespeed in May of 2019. So I serve as a resource for the schools that we work with, and getting to partner with these awesome groups like we have on the call today to be able to help share the knowledge that we've learned and help other schools get started and be successful in their own esports endeavors. I'm also a NACAD advisory board member. That's the National Association of Esports Coaches and Directors. That's the National Coaches Association, made up of current and former high school and college coaches, your peers in the space. We're kind of just devoted to building out more professional development, and it's an awesome group to join. If at any point you have questions that don't get answered during today, or if you'd like to talk more to myself or any of the three guests that we have, please feel free to reach out. My contact info is here on the screen. Email, call, text, whatever. Follow me on Twitter, DM me. Would love to talk after today if you still have questions. One other thing real quick before we get started in introducing the panel, we want to shout out Microsoft. They've been a sponsor of Esports Ed ever since the beginning. I just want to say thank you for your continued support of Esports Ed as a whole. So with that, let's get the important people introduced here today. We've got three awesome groups represented: Missouri, Wisconsin, and Ohio. These guys joining me on the call are all key members in those organizations, and I'll let them kind of introduce themselves, starting with Tony Grignani.
Yeah, well done on the enunciation of my last name, Josh. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, my name is Tony Grignani, and I serve as president of the Missouri Scholastic Esports Federation. As a panelist, I'm probably the youngest in this esports space. Our organization has only been in existence for about a little over a year, but we serve the state of Missouri in helping all students have access to esports.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Tony. Next up, Mike Dolly from Wisconsin.
I am Mike Dolly. I am the president of the Wisconsin High School Esports Association. I am also a business and computer science teacher at Elkhorn Area High School as my day hat. And I guess that makes me the senior on here as the organization that's been around for, I think we're entering into our 5th or 6th year at this point.
Awesome. And finally, last but not least, Nick Ryder.
I'm Nick Ryder. I'm the Director of Technology at Cary Exempted Village Schools as my day job, and I am the founder and president of Esports Ohio. We stole a lot of Mike Dolly's ideas from up in Wisconsin. We've been around for about 3 years. We've grown very rapidly to where we serve over 150 school districts now and around 3,000 student competitors last spring. So bringing scholastic and competitive esports opportunities to everyone in our states.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us, gentlemen. And thanks for everything that you guys are doing for your states. It's been awesome to kind of watch each of you your organizations grow over the last couple of years that I've been around, and definitely excited to continue the conversation today. And getting started, let's kind of just go through one by one. Would love to learn kind of when and why your organization started. I think every state is different no matter what we're talking about for esports. Every state has different needs and different goals about what they want to accomplish. And I think, you guys represent a wide swath of that. I'd love to hear kind of more about why you guys got started and kind of when everything started to kick off.
Sure. So I'll jump in, just going in the order we went before. I guess, I mean, officially MOSEF got started in October of 2019, but my journey started before then. So my day job, I serve as principal of Hickman High School in Columbia, Missouri. And I'm a gamer, been a gamer my entire life. And I'm a fan, although it's somewhat of an abusive relationship with League of Legends. And I followed the LCS and everything else. And I had a group of students ask me to sponsor and support their esports team. And then I had a private company approach us about joining an esports league so that our kids can compete. And I was alarmed by the amount of money these organizations were charging for our kids to compete, because in working with our Scholastic esports team, I saw amazing things like my kids feel a connection to the school setting, get to put a jersey on for their team, for their high school for the first time, and also be awarded scholarship money for colleges actively recruiting them to go on and play at the next level. And so because I'm in public education and I believe in access and equity, I felt that it wasn't fair for all of our students in Missouri not to have the same opportunity. So I set out to work with a couple of other passionate educators to start a nonprofit that did two things. First, educate schools on esports and why they needed esports programs, so that way they would be more susceptible to starting one. And then the second goal, to provide leagues that were professionally run, great, safe experience for students, and cost was not a barrier. So when we started MOSEF, it is extremely cheap. So $50 to join a league, or if that's too much for you, you can play for free. And so we've done that because we want as many kids involved in esports as possible, so they can build better connections with their schools and have post-secondary aspirations, or just overall be happier people.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Mike, how about you guys?
For me, it started in, I think, 2013. I had a student that gave a presentation about the League of Legends World Championship. And as somebody that grew up playing a lot of competitive StarCraft on the ladder, I was like, I didn't realize it had gotten this big. And so I started doing some random Google searching, came across the high school Star League, and I approached the student. I said, do you guys want to compete? And they essentially said yes. And after about 3 semesters of competing in there, where we only got to play maybe 40% of our matches over 3 semesters because of forfeits, we went to a tournament in Chicago. I got to meet 3 other teachers from Wisconsin that had teams competing as well. And we were just kind of talking, and we were like, we should go ahead and build our own thing. And so in that summer of 2016 or 2017, it all blurs together. I sent out probably 150 emails to computer science teachers or directors of IT for school districts. And essentially we started in the fall of 2017 officially with 7 schools playing League of Legends. And since then it's just grown exponentially. We've added titles. I think I'm up to like 125 schools on my mailing list right now that should be starting to register for the fall this upcoming year. And it's just been a lot of fun. We just keep building more and more to this, more student opportunities. This year we'll actually have like internships available. So we'll have students who want to go beyond gaming and do something beyond just the competitive gaming. So it's really awesome to just see how much of this has grown just exponentially in a few short years.
Awesome. Finally, Nick, how about the story for Ohio?
We have a lot of similarities to, Tony and Mike and the way that we started things. It was, ours is very grassroots in the fact that I'm a district tech coordinator, and a lot of teachers were frustrated. It's like, oh my gosh, all these students do is watch other people play Fortnite on their Chromebooks during study hall. So it's like, how can we harness all this passion, this interest these students have, and kind of turn that into an opportunity for these kids who may not be involved in anything else? So we found a way to link up with some of our universities in our area, Tiffin University, specifically in Northwest Ohio. We went and did a site tour back in 2018 and didn't realize that right in our neck of woods, we had a school that was offering $4,000 a year recurring scholarships to play on their esports teams. It's 20 minutes from our campus of our high school. So it's like, why are we not doing this? So we put out some feelers. We went to the state technology conference in Ohio. It's kind of like the big one. And I networked with people down there. I actually met Josh down there and the University of Akron and some of the things they were doing. We teamed together with 16 schools as a pilot season back in 2018, and we ran a 7-week season across 4 titles, and we had like 2 or 3 forfeits the whole time. It just worked. It was amazing. We linked up with so many schools who gave us good input and feedback from playing in the national leagues, what wasn't working out for them, the reschedules, the fact that there was no adult oversight required in some of these leagues just kind of blew my mind. And speaking to like Dolly's experiences of having 40% of forfeitures, I mean, nobody wants that. We want esports to have a good opportunity for students to compete at the level of traditional athletics. So it makes sense, we thought, to make it, adhere to our state guidelines and what we're used to in Ohio. And I think that's why the state kind of level has been so successful compared to the national level so far.
Awesome. So kind of diving a little bit deeper, our next question here is what does that process of getting started look like? Say I'm a really great example. I'm in Minnesota. Minnesota does not have a true kind of statewide organization like yourselves, or, a state like North Dakota or Montana. I'm a tech director in that state. I think this is a great idea, but I have no idea how we go from square one to where you guys are at. Can you talk about that process? Maybe let's start with Tony, since you kind of just went through this over the last year or so getting MOSEF started. But can you guys talk a little bit about that process and actually going from square one to, hey, we've got schools signed up and we're about to compete?
You do me a lot of credit thinking I have an established process. This has been a wild ride. I feel like I'm stumbling around in a dark room and I just bump into people and get to network. So I think what I heard in Mike and Nick's story is there's kind of, first off, this like announcement event. Like you meet some people, you find out they're doing stuff, and then you say, hey, let's do it. And so for me, I held a free Overwatch tournament at Mizzou here in Columbia, Missouri. And I figured whoever was crazy enough to come show up, they were going to be my believers. And if I could bring those people together and we could think crazy and just believe in this, then we're going to start doing stuff. And if you start with a group of believers that can hopefully all get along and you can ground yourself in what you want to accomplish, then you're just holding on for dear life. Because this thing, just like, as you heard Mike and Nick talk about, like we started with 9 high schools. We're already breaking 50 in over a year and a half. So you just start holding on and you network. I was fortunate to get to know Mike and Nick through different communications, and they've been super supportive. And you'll find that if you're in this for the right reasons, that there is a network out there that will support you. I call Nick the OG because he shares every single document that Ohio Esports has put out for us. And so it's about networking, asking questions, getting connected with the right people. And if you're doing it for the right reasons, you'll find a community that's going to support you the whole way. So I'd be curious to hear what Mike and Nick have to say, because for me, it's just been holding on. For sometimes it's really scary, but most of the time it's really, really exciting.
I guess I'll piggyback off of that. Being in education, everybody is so used to sharing their resources. You go out on there's, Facebook groups for business education teachers where somebody's like, hey, I'm looking to add this type of unit. Does anybody have any resources? Nobody throws up a paywall. Like everyone's like, here's everything that I have. Like, let's talk for 15 minutes. I'll walk you through exactly what I've been doing. And that's exactly how this is as well. Nick called me and I think we probably had a good hour and a half conversation. Ted from Michigan, I talked to him for an hour and a half as well. And I shared out all of our documents in order to help people streamline this process. Nobody is holding everything close to their chest. They're like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're finding success in our state. And I think understanding that each ecosystem is a little bit different. And how all of our states, just like our education licensures and everything that we got to do for our DPI, Like everything is unique to your state. So we all have our own environment that we're aware of. And so it's really neat to see some of these other states popping up. Minnesota is starting to organize. There is a group there. There's, I think, 14 other states that are starting to organize. And we all work closely together as leaders of just sharing what's working, like sharing bylaws, sharing articles of incorporation for those that are going to the nonprofit. If people have legal questions of how you overcame A, B, and C, or, you know, there's a lot of people that are coming out of the woodworks and they're like, use our platform, use our stuff. And we got one state that's like, yeah, we'll pilot this, or like, yeah, we had a meeting and it was A, B, and C, but it didn't do D, E, and F. Or we're like, okay, cool. Now I don't need to have that meeting. Sure. Because this is such a trusted environment as well, that if Tony or Nick say something, or Ted or Todd from Michigan and Illinois, if they're like, yeah, no, this didn't work for us because of this, and it's like, okay, that's fine. And I think all of our rule sets and regulations, like all of those are public facing documents that if you go to any of our sites, you can probably find them. And if you can't, just shoot me an email and I'll send them to you. Like there's no point in holding all of this back, because ultimately it benefits our students.
Awesome. Nick, anything else to add here?
No, Mike's absolutely right. I mean, I stole everything he had, you know, I reworked it. I made it work for Ohio, but yeah, I mean, he paved the way. I got to give credit where credit's due, and I pay it forward to Tony. Hopefully some of the stuff that Mike gave me helped you out, and you know, we refined it a little bit, and you know, we continue to share, and having the network, it's amazing. And like Mike and Tony both said, if someone is out there looking for the resources, they're there, and the network is there, and the support is there. If you're doing this for the right reasons and for the good of students, I mean, you're going to have support, and it's going to be a heck of a ride. I just want to echo off of Tony and Mike, though. In the beginning, just beware that it is a lot of work, and it will take a lot of dedication, and you will need your 1, 2 to 5 group of people that, number one, you can get along with. We've seen people that haven't got along very well. And number two, that are willing to work hard for the good of kids, because it's a passion project. That's what you need to have to be successful. And that's what all of our groups have had.
Awesome. All right. Let's talk a little bit about what some of the biggest hurdles that you guys faced in getting started, or even just in kind of operating now as a couple of other established state programs. You know, what are some of those big challenges, and how did you overcome them? And, you know, feel free to just jump in whatever order you'd like, but would really kind of love to hear, you know, some of the things that you've struggled with, and, you know, the solutions to those, you know, obstacles.
I guess I'll jump in first here. I think one of the biggest hurdles is just getting publicity out there. Whether that's from your local news press or from some of these national developer or game developers themselves, trying to build some of those relationships that are out there to show just how legitimate that this is, or that your state isn't going anywhere, that, you know, you're continuously growing. Like, we want to support your title. We want to support the students that are interested in playing your title, but we need some help. I'll throw a decent one out there. You know, we finally able to have conversations with Epic Games just around Fortnite, and like, there was that huge Fortnite boom. And I remember emailing them because I was trying to harness all those kids watching Fortnite in study hall. And I was like begging for a custom lobby code so that we could do in-house tournaments and not need to do like a screen recording software or something along those lines. And so to me, like, getting their attention or getting their trust in order to give us some of that information to better their customers essentially has been a big one. And just, again, getting recognition at our state level from some of our higher up organizations. I know, Nick, if I'm not mistaken, you have a STEM organization that's partnered with you, and like, to my knowledge, we don't have that here in Wisconsin. And so trying to find some of those big organizations in order to connect with have been really tough. And again, that goes down to each state having its own thing. Like, look at our friends down at TechSef. They got a hotbed of esports professional organizations and tech startups and all these big, like, Fortune 500 companies that are buying in. And up here in Wisconsin, we don't even have a Microsoft store. So like, it's every state is unique to what our barriers are. It's just, yeah, overcoming them is just continuously knocking on everybody's door until somebody answers.
Was that kind of the story with Epic? You just sent them an email every week for 12 months and then they finally responded? Or how did you kind of go about that?
Well, I guess I'll give a shout out to Chris Avias from New Jersey, because he is also somebody that will knock until you answer the door. And Chris is very good at it.
Well, and the other thing I'll add to Mike is, like, with that, sometimes it's just like, oh, I have a cousin or an uncle, or I went to college with a person who now, like, it is, like Mike said, you could have the best product, be doing the best job, and these developers won't give you the time of day. But then you know somebody who used to drink with somebody that now works as the CEO of Psionic or Epic or Riot, and it's like, boom, you're in the door. Like, it's somewhat frustrating, but that seems to be how this environment works. So.
Nick or Tony, any other like unique challenges that you guys had to face in Missouri or Ohio?
Like, I guess one of the biggest challenges is we were the trailblazers. Nobody had really done this before the way that it was done. So I think one of the challenges was trying to find like-minded people that were going through similar challenges. Because like in teaching, you go to your departments and you're like, oh, okay, this lesson isn't working quite the way I want it to. You tweak off, what the other teacher's doing, and you take feedback. So finding our group, I think, between the different states doing similar things really helped get over a lot of those big hurdles, to where, like one state might have been really good or had somebody on the board about writing bylaws, and then they help share those bylaws with other people to tweak for their needs. Somebody else, knew that uncle whose, sister worked for Epic Games and got that meeting, and then that spread to everyone else. Or like, for example, in ours, one of our coaches, collegiate coaches on our board had a professional Smite team. So we got contacts with High Res Studios, and now we have a good relationship with that developer. So some of the challenges, I guess, more solutions, was just kind of having that network and people, to back you up.
There's 2 points that both Mike and Nick have talked about that I think as a newer org, I've had to learn the hard way. And that's who to trust in this space. Like Mike and Nick said, as soon as you announce you're doing something with esports, you get just blasted with so many emails from so many organizations. And I will say that I've been guilty of being a little naive on what organizations actually have the right intentions. Some of these orgs are so big and have so many resources that they create nonprofits that you think are aligned with your vision, but really they're trying to get you to buy into something else. Or there was one time I called Nick up and I was like, Nick, I think I found the solution. Like, we can do this and it can be big. And I just remember Nick saying, yeah, I'm going to kind of take it slow with them and see how it goes. And he was right. He was right. That organization now isn't doing what I thought they would do. And so I think having that network and having a community that's so supportive and helpful to those of us who are coming into it, and being able to share our knowledge about, yeah, I met with these, like Mike was saying earlier, I met with them, you need to know this about them, or they sound really good, but are they really? Like, it's so hard, because this is one of the most toxic environments I think I've been in, with people who will put up a good front, but at the end of the day, they really don't care about your kids. They don't really care about your organization. They care about making money, and they want to find ways to do that as quick as possible. So that's something I've had to learn. I can't go like squirrel and chase every shiny new company who says they're going to support our organization or sponsor our organization. And sometimes it's better to let very attractive offers go, because you don't want to end up giving up too much of your organization and sacrificing your vision. And so I've had to learn that in this first year, and Mike and Nick have helped a lot in building my knowledge on that environment.
Awesome. Let's kind of shift gears and talk about some of the highlights. For being around for a couple of years to, just doing a kickoff event, not too long ago for Missouri. Let's talk about, feel free to pick and choose whatever you'd like, but we just love to talk about some of the high points that you guys have been able to accomplish for the state so far, and just kind of shed some light on some of those wins that you've been able to really secure.
My gosh, I can think of 1,000. Some of the big ones, I mean, some might seem small, but they're the biggest to me. Is we do all of our student shoutcasting is done by our competitors and by our membership district. So like it was 2 years ago, I think, at one of our state playoff matches, it was being called by a student who I thought did a tremendous job, was an amazing shoutcaster, called the match. He was super excited about it. And 2 days go by, and we get an email from his coach. He sent it to the board of Esports Ohio and was like, I just want to let you know, my son has never talked in public before. He's never, done anything like this. I was listening to your stream. I was watching him talk, and I'm just streaming tears down my face. This positive impact that has had on my son it is just something he's never been able to have before, and he's had it. And like, I'll be honest, I bawled like a baby. I shared it with our board in our board meeting. I was like, this is it. This is why we do this. This is amazing. So, I could talk about, some cool partnerships we've had, some amazing tournaments and stuff, but it's like those little things that are like, oh my gosh, this is why I work 80 hours a week, because it's so worth it. It's so worth it.
That's awesome.
I mean, I can piggyback right off of that. Our first state tournament that we did, we ran all 4 titles in a single day in one venue. Granted, it went 4 hours over, but that day for me was 7 a.m. until 11 p.m. And thank God I didn't have to drive home that night, because I got to my friend's house and I still had my coat and my shoes on, and I fell asleep on the couch. It was just a super rewarding day. But I mean, same thing for Nick. Like, I had a student that was going to help us casting, had never met him, only knew him through Discord, and his dad's emailing me asking if he's getting paid and all this other stuff. And dad called me, was super skeptical about it, then showed up and watched his kid in a room of 150 spectators doing play-by-play live commentary. And you could see he started in the back of the room, and by the end of his session, he was in the front row recording the whole thing. Like, and just seeing that positive impact. I will say probably one of the coolest things that I've ever seen is last year when we were at Madison College, and I think we had 24 or 26 schools represented at our state championship, and they're all decked out in their own jerseys, and the whole like auditorium is just filled with teams that are ready to compete. And that alone in itself is really cool. And then seeing kids break off to other schools from random parts of the state, and they're like, I've been playing with him in Discord for 2 years now, and now we finally get to meet up, and now we're playing like a 1v1 on the side or something like that. And it's just really cool that these kids are finally able to meet each other, even after playing virtually for 2 to 4 years now at this point, against one another. And it's one of the coolest experiences.
It's awesome.
Yeah, real similar experiences. I'll go pre-MOSEF. We held a scrimmage between 2 high schools, my high school and another high school. And I've been in education now for 15 years. And this is the only time, like, after the match was over, the kids went and picked up the posters off the wall that we had used, and then went up on stage and asked the kids to autograph them. Like, I've seen high school teams win state. I've seen all that. I've never seen kids go up and say, hey, would you autograph this for me? And now those kids are on my varsity League of Legends team. So there's that type of stuff. There's kids who make videos for their school board saying, I'm an introvert and esports helped me learn these skills. Please start an esports program. We've got kids tweeting out to teachers saying, hey, Mrs. So-and-so, this reminds me of you because you helped us start an esports program. Now I'm getting a scholarship to go on to play to college. Those are definitely some highlights. I think for me, because we haven't been able to have an esports live event because of COVID. So, and since we've started, we haven't been able to get together. And we rolled the dice and had an in-person conference. And I'm not going to get into the politics of COVID and everything else like that. That's not the point of this story. But we rolled the dice on it there at the end of July. And so we had 80 educators from across our state show up and get to meet each other in person. And for those of us, if you've played a game with a group of friends that you met online for a really long time, and then you took that risk and you got to meet them in person. If you've had that experience, that's what I got to see happen for 80 people, right? And get to connect and see our whole MOSEF community come together. And saying that I've played a small role in bringing that community together, I just stood back in awe and said, sorry to the participants, but how the hell did this happen? How did we get here so quickly that we have this many people here as part of this community? And it was just really cool to watch.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing, you guys. I want to kind of keep the conversation going along with all the positivity and hearing these amazing stories. What do you guys think are the reasons why groups like yourselves are important and worth joining and supporting? Whether it's a student that wants to play all the way up to a booster club in a community that wants to help out, or schools that are just starting their own programs. Why are groups like MOSEF in Wisconsin and Esports Ohio, why are they worth diving into and participating with?
One stat I like to share at the end of our season, it was actually 2 years ago at the end of our spring season, we sent out a exit survey to all of our student participants, and we found out that 75% of the 2,000 kids that responded, it was the first time they were ever in a sport, ever. These are high school kids. It blew my mind that the social skills that we're developing, the teamwork, communication, collaboration, working together, how to stay, calm and not get tilted. It's these things that are transferable to life that they're not learning because they're not involved. And this gives them that involvement that they don't have. That alone is amazing. Plus, because our organizations, I hate to play this card, but we're here for the kids. I mean, all of us are involved in education. We're involved in developing young people and creating these opportunities. And a lot of us are selfish because we wanted this when we were in school. We didn't have it. So we're doing it because of that too. But like Tony and like Mike said, there are so many companies and organizations that are doing this for the wrong reasons. These grassroots organizations are doing them for the right reasons.
I think the competition is one branch to esports. And you can have highly competitive teams. And in my opinion, that's where then these national competitions really have their niche. I mean, for example, we just had like a state champions of Rocket League tournament. And I mean, my team was SSL and 2 grand champs, and we went 0-2 and got bounced. But they didn't drop a single match in our state association. So those national leagues have that level of competition. However, not all of our students want that level of competition. They may just want to hang out with their friends and play together, or maybe they're just picking up a game and their game sense isn't as high as some of those others. When you're creating some of this barrier of entry, and then the students have that negative of an experience, it's hard to keep that program going and sustaining it. Whereas in some of these state associations, we've seen some of our teams go from 0-8, and then the next year they go 2-6, and then 4-4, and then 6-2 the next year to win the conference championship. Like, we can actually have that developmental process. Now, is that to say that those kids then went on to be like really high ranked in their respective games? No, not necessarily, but they learned their teamwork, their collaboration, their accountability. They went through all of that process that we're trying to help develop in all of these young people, like Nick said, and that's way more important than the competition itself. And I think that's what you're going to get a lot more out of your local state association. And not to mention, in my opinion, again, I think it's fun to build on existing rivalries of schools that you're already playing, right? Like for us, anytime, I live in Lake Country, so if Arrowhead is playing Waukesha West, that's a premier title, no matter what sport that you're talking about, because it's such a close rivalry. If I have to play Nick's high school versus my high school, other than if I didn't know Nick, then we'd have no connection. We're like, yeah, cool, we're just playing a team from Ohio. And sometimes that's tough for kids that aren't looking to be really competitive. But yeah, that's just kind of my 2 cents. And I think we can offer a lot more opportunities for students at our levels. Like we're having internships, we're having students take on community leadership roles within our discords. They're organizing their own weekly tournaments. Like they're doing all of this kind of fun stuff that they get to do, that they may not get that opportunity to do at a large scale level just yet.
Yeah, I'll just say we're worth supporting because we're inherently better than everybody else. And the reason why I say that is because like Mike and Nick talked about internships, right? MOSEF is also committed to that same thing. Like we're giving kids opportunities to present their marketing strategy for their esports program to universities like Maryville and get scholarships. So if we can create opportunities for kids using gaming and they're really good gamers and go on, awesome. If not, we're committed to finding other ways we can get kids to create career opportunities around gaming. And that's why I say we're inherently better, because we're crazy. We work crazy hard. You heard Mike, you heard Nick, like myself, like I already work a 60-hour job, 70-hour job as a building principal, and I added this on top of it. Mike and Nick both spoke to that earlier, and that's because we believe in this. We're passionate about this. Everybody else out there is doing it to turn a profit, right? They work their hourly job and then they clock out or they go home and they're done. They don't, like Mike and Nick said, they don't live in the communities they're serving. They don't know the schools that they're trying to. They're just statistics. They're just things on a thing that they can either lie or make up and try to get their next round of funding. And for us, we're out here grinding because we believe in it. Like we believe deeply. And so we sacrifice parts of ourselves so that kids have opportunities. And that's why we're worth supporting more so than any other entity out there.
I mean, just a footnote, but in order to make the first state championship happen, I wrote a check for like $2,500 out of my bank account, hoping that I would make enough back in order to call it like just to break even. So like I ran the risk to make something happen without wanting to get a profit at all.
Okay. Getting towards the end here, just have a couple other questions. I just want to touch a little bit. You guys are all affiliate programs, loosely affiliated with NASEF. What role have they played? You know, I know a lot of states look at their curriculum stuff more so than some of the other things that they're using on a nationwide level. But what role has NASEF played in your development or in your foundation each year? Can you talk about that just real quick here?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm actually a licensed educator too, and my students actually built the machines that are behind us for part of the lab. And I actually worked with NASEF as a Scholastic Fellow this year to where I helped design curriculum into a class where my students actually learn the CompTIA, A+, Net Plus standards. And we actually developed that, and now I have an 18-week or a semester course that's aligned to our state standards that I wouldn't have been able to do without the support of NASEF. So NASEF academics, I mean, they are top notch in esports. They make some of the best academic material I have seen for esports. I mean, and they do K-12, I mean, all the way down to the elementary. They have resources for social emotional learning. They have CTE pathways. And on top of that, they also have other tournaments and other competitive opportunities that our club members have access to as well. So they've got a great scholastic academic group, and they're building out their competitive group as well. And the thing I like about joining NASEF as an independent affiliate that runs our own competitive league is that it's all additive. It's use what you want to use. You don't have to use it if you don't want to use it. They're super awesome to work with because there's no pressure. They say, hey, here's a resource. If you want to use it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. So the partnership makes sense for us, and that's why I like NASEF.
I mean, I will piggyback right off of that too. They have titles that they're offering that we're stretched pretty thin already on 4 titles, but they can offer more. And so if there are schools that want to take advantage of that, I'll shout out their Rube Goldberg Minecraft builder competition that they did. Like that was super awesome. What was the other one that they were just doing? Something something environmental sciences as well this spring.
And they had that stadium competition where you're building a stadium that's COVID proof or with COVID in mind through Minecraft.
Yep.
Yeah, and like those are really awesome application projects for students to be working through. And it's not something that's in our realm of being able to not only have the time to create some of that material, but then in order to follow through and get it pushed out as much as they're doing, like it's a fantastic resource to offer more for those that want more. And it's perfect.
Yeah, I echo everything that Nick and Mike have said. Like, I really appreciate that they trust us to lead our organization, and there's no heavy-handedness or pressure to do certain titles or partner with certain people. So that's been really appreciative. They also have done some series for us on like how to get grants and what grants we should be applying for and keeping us aware of that, which has been essential for us in trying to keep costs low to kids to participate. And so I think, we talked about earlier, like if you're looking for a community to join, if you're just getting started, if for some reason you can't get connected with any of us, which I would think that's kind of shocking if you can't connect with us, but maybe you don't like our beards and our mustaches or our heavy accents. NASEF is also a good place to get connected, and they will help plug you into other people who are in your area or around you that are doing the same thing.
Awesome. And then the last one, I just kind of also, you kind of already mentioned this, but what resources would you recommend for people just getting started? We just talked about NASEF, and you've mentioned, just kind of stealing the best of the other states that are already doing this. But is there, anything we haven't talked about today as far as resources are concerned that you would, you've used yourself or you would recommend that others check out?
When you build your dream team, you want to make sure that you have people to fill certain roles of a nonprofit. If you structure as a nonprofit like most state orgs do, make sure you have your legal guy, your person who can give you legal advice, serving on your board, because those are things that come up that you'll have to have answers for, and they'll help you get through your documentation and make sure you're good with your taxes and all that good stuff and your bylaws. So that's important. Also, make sure that you partner with local. I mean, that's the thing that works about us that I really like, is that it works locally. Like Mike was talking about, nobody cares if I beat up on one of Tony's teams. If I beat up on the team across the street, that's great. Same thing with partnerships. If your partnerships make sense in your state, like for us, we partnered with a STEM group out of our capital, Columbus, and they have been awesome. They've been aligning curriculum, and they've been doing a lot of scholastic resources for us as well. So work local and partner where it makes sense, and build that dream team. The dream team is important. If you don't have people you can count on, there's no way you can do this yourself. It takes a lot. Dolly, I know you're a magician. You made it happen that first year, but even you had to ask for some help, I would have to imagine.
I have somebody on my board that keeps me in check. Yes, because I'm kind of like Tony, to where I want to run, and he's like, "You're not running right now. Like, you need to walk." And I'm like, "Come on, just let me run. Come on." So I'm very thankful for that person that keeps me in check. And I think too, diversifying perspectives on your board as well. Having somebody that's good with legal. We have virtual representation on our board. We have directors of IT on our board. We are in the process of trying to get more community members on our board, or corporate members on our board as well, just so we can have varying perspectives on our board, so we can ensure that we're doing this the best that we can. And I think if you're looking for some of those resources as a state just getting started, call one of us. You can have all of our documentation. Like, we can run you through where we got snagged, how we overcame certain situations. Again, it's that network that's there, and it is there. If you're doing it right, then it's like the Field of Dreams reference, right? If you build it, they will come. Like, they're there in the cornfield somewhere.
And yeah, I don't think this can be said enough. Like, this group, like, if you need a resource, anyone in this panel, contact us. Like, just find our websites, MOSEF, Wisconsin Esports, Ohio Esports. Like, just Google us and then drop a line and we will help. Like I have a responsibility now to pay back what Mike and Nick have done for me. So that's a great step to get going. And then the other thing, like, I'm not trying to brown nose here, Josh, but I do it a lot. I always get schools asking like financial resources, grants, opportunities, and I always go to Bytespeed's website and I find their resources where there are schools out there, and I drop that link. And I'm speaking from the heart here, Josh. I'm not trying to earn points with Bytespeed. I'm just saying, like, I go to that website because that can help schools that are looking for grants, because there are some schools that don't have financial resources from their administration or for their athletics, and they're trying to do it on their own. So that's a way to do it as well too. I don't know if you want to get into other like more logistical resources. Like, there are some really good free software options out there to help you run your league. So like, I'm a big fan of Battlefy. I use that. If you're just starting and you're really low on resources, you can use that. Also, don't overlook the power of a good Google Sheet and somebody who can code in Excel or Google Sheet. If you can find one of those people, you can do everything through Google Sheets, and it'd be just as good, if not better, than any software you can get out there. And that's the last part. Like, you're gonna make mistakes. Like, it's gonna happen. You could sit and you can try to plan out the best course and get the best resources and talk and talk and talk. And as Mike pointed out earlier, just run, just go. Like you're gonna have to slow down. There will be things that humble you. There will be mistakes that get made. Learn the art of an apology, and own it. Learn from it, but don't be afraid to get started, even if you don't think you're necessarily in the best position to get going.
Awesome. Well, you guys, thanks so much. I know we've got about 15 minutes left as far as like time for the webinar. If there's any questions for those of you participating, please feel free to drop them in as we're kind of closing things out here. My contact info is on the screen. If you want to meet afterwards and talk more about some of the resources that are out there, Tony mentioned our website has a ton of just links to grants and links to, these guys' websites. We've kind of tried to build the esports page on Bytespeed as just an encyclopedia Britannica of high school esports. So feel free to check that out, or we can send resources over to you. If you're watching the recording on YouTube, please leave any questions you have in the comments. We'll check those for sure. And I just want to say, to Tony and Mike and Nick, thank you guys so much for being a part of the webinar today and for sharing your knowledge and your expertise. It's really important, I think, to continue the conversation and just keep moving those resources in front of people who need them. And it's kind of what Esports Ed is all built around. And I just want to say thank you again to each of you for giving up a Wednesday afternoon and jumping in here, with school looming in the background. We just really appreciate your time.
Well, Nick's got tornadoes looming in the background, so.
Blustering Ohio.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to brown nose for a second too. I just want to say, Josh is the man. He's been around since the beginning. He's helped us foundationally. Bytespeed's been great. Gravity Gaming. He showed up at our first LAN event 2.5 years ago. He helped set up the night before. He helped tear down the day after. I mean, he's the man. He is true passion, and he is the right guy for the job. I'm super, super thankful to be connected to you, Josh.
I appreciate that, Nick.
Here. Echo all that. In our short time together, Josh, we have shared barbecue together, so that pretty much.
We sure did. Yep, in the sweltery Missouri spring.
And you're one of the only people in the esports scene that my wife goes, "Is that guy going to be there from Bytespeed?" So there you go.
I think I hung out with Richland during the conference pretty a lot. They're a customer of ours, and Adam's assistant coach, I think, only knows me as Bytespeed. So that's my nickname no matter where I go. But we haven't had any questions come through. So I'm going to say thanks again to everybody for joining us this afternoon. Thanks for watching and being a part of the session live. For those of you that are attending, watch for next month's iteration sometime in September here. With school getting started, we'll probably push it towards the end of the month. just to give our next guests a little bit more time to breathe and get started with the school year coming. So thanks again to Microsoft for sponsoring Esports Ed, and we'll see you next month.